Speaking of, the Biden and Trump campaigns went after one another yesterday over whether or not Trump would repeal Obamacare should he be reelected. In a post on Truth Social, if you can call it that, Trump wrote, quote, "I'm not running to terminate the ACA as crooked Joe Biden disinformates and misinformates all the time." I just want to say, if Joe Biden put out something like this, our friends at Fox News and all the other networks would be going crazy, saying he's senile, he can't even spell, he doesn't even know what he's doing. Anywho, in other words, make the ACA much, much better for far less money or cost to our gressed American citizens. MAGA 2024. In response to those comments, the Biden campaign responded by writing, quote, "A feeble and confused Trump posts a typo-riddled, all-caps rant, misspelling Biden, disinform, misinforms, and other basic words." In addition, the campaign posted a montage of Trump threatening to repeal Obamacare.
And I told the Republicans, I said, look, if you really want to do something, just let it explode. And then they'll come begging us to fix it, okay? Begging. This is a newer subject, but Obamacare is a disaster. And I said, we're going to do something about it. We're going to win by knocking the hell out of Obamacare, terminating it, coming up with something much less expensive, much better.
Katty Kay, does anyone believe what Donald Trump has to say?
Here we are on the 14th anniversary of Obamacare, and it's more popular than ever. And no, the Republicans have never come up with the replace part of that whole repeal and replace. And Donald Trump didn't come up with the replace part of it when he was president. So it seems unlikely that there's anything going to happen to Obamacare. I mean, I think it gets to, John Heilemann, it gets to something, the tone of the way the Biden campaign is now hitting back hard at things like this Truth Social post and all its wonderful malapropisms and misspellings. How do they handle Trump online? Do they go for kind of making fun of him, taking on Trump at his own game in the way that sort of Marco Rubio tried and dismally failed to do? Do they take the high ground? Do they just keep pointing out the policy issues, like he's never going to replace Obamacare, and these are all the times where he said he's going to destroy Obamacare? What's the tone they have to strike? Because Trump is such a tricky fish to deal with.
Allow me, Katty, to informate you on that matter, because I'm always a big fan. Trump's got a whole different lexicon. I mean, I think feeble and confused. It says it all in the tone of that Biden, and the tone of that Biden. I'm still stuck on the Bible. On the tone of the Bible response, they're just they're trying to run straight at Trump with the kinds of insults that Trump throws at Biden. And I think that's the right sort of spirit to it. I don't think that anybody over there, just to be clear, in the Marco Rubio, whenever anybody mentions Marco Rubio taking on Trump, I'm always thinking about maybe Rubio went a little bit far when he started getting into a debate over Trump, literally on national television, over their respective the sizes of their respective genitalia. So I wouldn't suggest that Biden will go that far, but I think that they are in that mode now where they think that they can go toe to toe with Biden, or go toe to toe with Trump with that kind of spirit of the gloves are off. Let's put it that way. I think that's kind of where we have been with. The Biden campaign has been doing a good job online with Trump for the past year or so, but they really have amped up their game since the Republican primary started, and in particular after the State of the Union. And I don't think that they are going to be relentless. I don't think that they can give any inch or any quarter to Trump and to let anything go by that's as ridiculous as this thing that Trump just put up. It's not just that Trump says he wants to repeal Obamacare. It was the first thing he did as president in 2017. He walked into office. First thing he did was try to repeal Obamacare. As you pointed out, Katty, there was no replacement. That effort failed. I agree with you. I don't think Obamacare is going anywhere. And you'll note, even in Trump's own words on the Truth Social post, he doesn't say, "I'm not going to repeal Obamacare." He says, "I'm not running to repeal Obamacare," which is that is not a misprecision on Trump's part. That's Trump not saying, "Well, I'm running for a lot of other reasons, but I'm not even going to deny that I would, in fact, repeal Obamacare or try to if I became president." And I think to the extent the Biden campaign has that spirit that they have and know that they have a winning issue here and in many other cases, that's the way that they're going to go after Trump, combining the kind of spirit of the fight with policy positions that are way more popular with the American people.
So, David French, in recent weeks, national polls show that Joe Biden is inched ahead. Battleground state polls very close, pretty much across the board. And that's in part because Donald Trump seems to be leaving some Republican votes on the board. Let's remember Nikki Haley, in her concession speech when she bowed out of the race, implored Trump, make this a bigger tent, make a pitch for my supporters, even suggesting that she herself could come aboard. She didn't say that. But at the very least, she was saying, there are Republicans who want to be with you. Convince us. He's taken no steps to do that. Do you think those Republicans will come back to him anyway? Or do you think they'll stay home or even go to Joe Biden?
Well, a certain percentage are going to peel off. This just keeps happening. He keeps alienating people. And there's a certain percentage of Reagan conservatives in particular who now have been spending 8 years still hanging on to the GOP while the GOP has been saying, we hate you, you're terrible, you're horrible. And oh, by the way, vote for us or you're a traitor. And that's been the message for years now. And it's slowly but surely alienating people. We saw it in 2020. People who left that top line blank or voted for Biden instead of Trump, who voted Republican downline. Those folks cost Trump some states. And so he's making no move, none at all, as you were saying, to reach out to them. He's genuinely, it appears to be, just hoping that he's going to either attract enough new people or the old patterns of bullying Republicans on the line will continue to work. And look, let's not be too idealistic or naive here. The bullying will work for a lot of people. It may work for most people, but they're continuing to just push away winnable voters because, frankly, they hate those voters. They really do hate those voters. And so they're pushing people away.
New York Times opinion columnist David French, thank you very much for being on this morning. John Heilemann, stay with us if you can, please. And coming up.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.